Hey everybody, if this is your first video you're watching on this series, please go back to episode 1. Its link will be in the description below. And yeah, hope you enjoy. I want to thank you all for reading my last post. I'm currently planning on to go back into the woods with a couple of my friends that claim they have experienced similar strange occurrences. To update everyone on my life, I actually recently turned 18 years old, and I recently got my driver's license around the same time, and I've been making trips out to those woods. To say the least, these trips have been pretty dangerous. There have been a number of recent missing persons reports connected to those woods. There seems to be no real pattern regarding who goes missing, as their ages, genders, and nationalities always tend to be vary. Some of the individuals who go missing are eventually found, but they are never found alive. When their bodies show up, they are always stripped of their flesh and teeth. This makes it hard to figure who they are. I guess they are usually identified by the size of their body or using DNA of some sort. I'm not too sure on that. My knowledge on forensics only comes from shows like CSI and Bones, so I don't really understand how they do it. Anyways, some of my experiences in the woods have been gut-wrenching. I was one of the first people to find a body out there. It was a child, around the ages of 5 or 6. Really, my life has not been the same since that day. Despite the fact that this is happening over a year ago now, I still see the body. It hasn't left my mind, but I plan on going back there to stop whatever's hurting these people. I'm not going alone this time. With my mental state the way it is, I truly doubt I'd survive by myself. I'll keep everyone posted. If I'm lucky, I'll still have service out in the woods. Until next time, though, thanks for reading. A lot of crazy shit has happened since my last update. What I have seen is enough to fuel my nightmares for the rest of my life. I think I'm way in over my head. This situation with Woods is bigger than I could have ever imagined. In my last post, I explained how I was going to go back into the woods with my friends to figure out what was going on. That is exactly what we did. I went with my friends, Mark and Leon. But Mark is 6'1". He's a big athletic guy and shares passions for hunting. He may be the strongest man I've ever met. Leon is far more laid back. He's a hunter as well, has a knack for tracking. More importantly, he's a gun enthusiast. I thought it would be great for him to come with us, since he is bound to be carrying some serious firepower. I realize now that we are 3 posts in and I have not introduced myself. My name's Hutch. I may not be as strong as Mark, but I do have a bit of muscle. I can handle myself in most situations. Anyways, we spent a while preparing ourselves before going to these woods. We packed the basics: food, water, an extra set of clothes, first aid, and of course weapons. Leon helped with this last one. He equipped us with 3 ARs and 3 full magazines. With the supplies we brought, we had enough to survive a week or so without returning. We made it to the woods around noon and noticed that there was a thick fog tangled between the trees. One by one, we went to each of the locations where we experienced strange events in the past. To our surprise, there There was nothing, out of the ordinary at least, to be found. We began to get a bit discouraged till Mark perked up and he said, "Maybe the things we're searching for are sleeping. Didn't all of our stories happen at night?" After a brief discussion, Leon and I agreed. Mark began to speak again. "They're probably nocturnal. Didn't you say the creatures you saw ran away from the flare you lit? Maybe they're afraid of the light." Hearing him say this made me realize how much of an idiot I am for not realizing this already. I agreed with him. We began discussing the locations where these creatures could be hiding during the day. I remember overhearing a few locals talking about this tremendous cave that they stumbled upon deep in the woods. Apparently they heard screams coming from the inside. They also mentioned hearing the sound of crying. I didn't pay much attention to the story when I first heard them talking about it because there were a ton of rumors floating around. After these strange occurrences began, plenty of people were making up stories. So it was hard to determine which ones were real and which ones weren't. Regardless, I told Mark and Lena about the cave, and they agreed to check it out. We had already been in the woods for about 7 hours, and I could hardly hide my annoyance with the situation. It took a couple more hours, but luckily we found the cave, and before it got too dark, as we walked into the entrance of the cave, we noticed this fog become denser. It seemed as though it was pouring from the mouth of the cave. That's when we heard it. It started out as a faint at first, but it got louder as we got closer. We could hear a baby crying. We were all nervous and hesitant for a moment before taking another step. After all, we were there to keep anyone else from getting hurt. We slowly peered in the edge of the cave. The crying was now painfully ringing in our ears. Mark pointed his flashlight to the cave. The ground was littered with teeth, many of which seemed human. Mark continued to point his flashlight at different parts of the cave until we saw something immense skitter by. With a shaking of a hand, Mark shined the light toward the direction. The creature had moved. To our terror, his light illuminated a 7-foot-tall spider-like creature. It seemed to have human skin stuck to its 8 slender legs and body. Despite this, it wasn't until I saw its face that I experienced true fear for the first time in my life. It became clear to us the crying was not coming from an actual child. Instead, the spider's face was that of a newborn baby. Except for its mouth. The mouth opened unnaturally wide, revealing a row of jagged teeth that seemed to jut out of it in all directions. The wailing never stopped. It suddenly became louder as the mouth opened wider. I was mesmerized by the sound that seemed to go on forever between those abhorrent teeth. The creature began to rush towards us. I only snapped out of my trance because Leon opened fire. With a barrage of precisely aimed bullets, he managed to shoot out from the creature's legs before screaming, "Shoot at its legs before it kills us!" Even injured, that creature was swift. It lunged at March and jabbed at his shoulder with one of its many legs. That is when I opened fire on the creature to get its attention. I aimed for its face, which seemed to slow it down for a moment before it charged at me with its mouth open and wide. I lifted my gun to begin firing again. Before I could, something flew above my head into the creature's mouth. The creature closed its many teeth around the objects as I turned to see where it came from. Leon was standing there, behind me, looking as though he'd just thrown something. He screamed, "Run!" Mark and I started doing so, and 3 of us started deeper into the cave. As the sound of an explosion went off behind us, the crying stopped. But we kept running until we were sure there was nothing behind us. We were all in shock and collapsed on the floor. None of us said a word for what felt like hours. Silently, we checked where Mark had been struck, but he was okay. The silence was finally broken when Leon half-heartedly muttered, "It's a good thing I packed that." As dangerous as it was for him to do so, I couldn't help but agree. We set up camp, ate a bit, and barely spoke at all. I can't help but think that I still hear crawling noises all around me. I'll update you guys soon if I can. I honestly have no clue where to begin. It seems that my life is spiraling out of control and I'm in front row seat to hell. I don't believe I'm even on Earth anymore. I ended up breaking my phone and I'm forced to write this in a leather journal I bought a year ago or two. I plan on telling about what is happening to me. If I get hurt, or even worse, people will know what happened to us. After we destroyed the hellish creature, we all collapsed from lack of strength. We all made sure we were not horribly injured. Mark is luckily okay. The creature didn't hurt him too bad. Probably some bruising to his shoulder, but besides that, he should be fine. Leon managed to come out of the fight completely unharmed. I confirmed him having a grenade, which he just told me wasn't thinking we were going to need it, but it's a good thing I brought it. I agreed with him, even though I thought it was strange that he casually had a grenade. But knowing Leon for a while, I'm not surprised. We all sat there for a couple hours, contemplating our life choice leading up to now. The fog creeping out from the cave didn't help the fear of what could have lain in it. We stayed awake, but while we were all sitting there trying to rest, I heard a weird sound of the rocks breaking above us, and that wasn't the only thing I noticed. Loud groaning started to echo around the cave. I shined my flashlight upwards. The light shined upon a large humanoid-looking spider, similar to the massive one we fought before, but smaller. Hundreds of them were surrounding us. I managed to quickly tell Mark and Leon to haul ass to try to make an escape. We tried going towards the entrance of the cave, but they surrounded it. We were forced back deeper into the cave, and the fog began to thicken. I heard Mark scream, and I was soon to figure out why. We were focusing on looking behind us, so we didn't see the hole coming up. Me and Leon both fell into the hole. The fog surrounding us completely. We fell for what seemed to be minutes. The fear of feeling like we were all going to fall for our deaths caused us to black out. I awoke to find the fog was gone, and that the air felt a little warmer. I looked towards where the entrance of the cave would be. I saw a bright light, which was weird, because by the time after we waited for a couple hours, it should have been around 8 p.m. I looked out to see a world that doesn't look like our own. I could hear whales, screams off in the distance. It was clear this was not the place we entered from. I'm still completely baffled to what the hell is going on. I saw creatures the size of mountains begin to rise out of the greenery in front of me. Their bodies were shaped as they were human, but they began to just walk aimlessly. I ran back into the cave, and this is where I began. This is where I started writing this. I'm writing this stupid journal, clearly lost in some place that appears to be some kind of hell. Mark and Lena are starting to wake up. I'll update this later. Hutch.